All right, election season. It's here. And I'm betting some of you listening are thinking, maybe it's time to get out of here.
Head for the hills, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. But this time, maybe permanently. And look, we get it. That's why in this deep dive, we're not focusing on the why of moving abroad, but the how.
The practical stuff.
Exactly. And you might be surprised to hear how many folks are actually considering this. Henley and Partners, they reported a 504% jump in Americans asking about, you guessed it, moving abroad.
Wow, 504%.
Huge. And International Living found that 65%,
65%.
65% of the people they surveyed are at least thinking about leaving the U.S.
A lot of them saying the election's a big reason, too.
No surprise there. So is this just a fantasy, or can you actually make it a reality? That's what we're here to figure out.
It's more doable than you might think. The biggest thing is that first hurdle.
Visas.
The visa.
I got to say, when I first started looking into all this, the visa process seemed like climbing Mount Everest.
Right.
Totally overwhelming. But there are actually more options than you might realize.
Oh, absolutely. You've got work visas if you've already got a job lined up somewhere else. Retirement visas for those looking to, enjoy a change of scenery. And for all the digital nomads out there.
Ah, yes, the remote work crowd.
Digital nomad visas are becoming huge.
Game changer for so many people.
And then there's citizenship by descent.
Okay, tell me about that one.
So if you've got family ties to another country, you might already have a way to get citizenship.
Really?
Without even knowing it.
Just like hidden in your family tree.
Exactly. It's like a secret passport to the world.
Love that.
Uh-huh.
But okay, it's not just about getting into another country. You got to find the right fit, right? I mean, beaches, mountains, big cities, quiet countryside. How do you even begin to narrow it down?
That's where it gets really interesting. It's not about finding the prettiest place. It's gotta fit your lifestyle, your values.
Right. I mean, what's important to you?
Exactly. Climate, cost of living, the culture. Do you want to be part of a big expat community or really integrate with the locals? Healthcare, all these things matter.
So it's more than just finding a postcard perfect spot. It's got to feel like home.
Exactly. And that's why Jen Burnett, she's the co-founder of Expatsy, a company that helps Americans move abroad. She's got a great tip.
Okay, I'm listening.
Take a scouting trip.
A scouting trip.
Not just a vacation. Go live in a potential place for a few weeks. Really see what daily life is like.
It's like test driving a car before you buy it, but for your life.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, there's a lot of practical stuff to consider with a move like this. Like, what about giving up your U.S. citizenship? Does getting a visa somewhere else mean you got to do that?
That's a big question a lot of people have. International Living says that's usually not the case. You can often hold both citizenships.
Good to know.
And when it comes to housing, renting before you buy, that's usually the smart move.
Yeah, get your bearings first.
Exactly. And then healthcare. That's another big one. Good news is a lot of countries have good options for foreigners. In Portugal and Spain, for example, you can actually buy into their public healthcare systems.
Public health care, that's appealing to a lot of people. How does that even work?
Well, it varies from country to country, but generally you register as a resident and you might have to pay a monthly fee.
Okay.
It usually ends up being way less expensive than private insurance, though, and the coverage is pretty comprehensive. But, private insurance is always there if you want more choices or have specific needs. Oh, and one more thing. You should always check if your U.S. health insurance, the one you have now.
Yeah.
See if it covers anything abroad. You never know.
Good point. Never hurts to check. Okay, so visas, finding that perfect spot, healthcare, check, check, check. But let's be real. How do you actually afford to live abroad? It can't all be beaches and, sipping espresso and charming cafes.
Definitely not. Having an income plan, that's key, even for retirees.
Right, because you can access Social Security benefits abroad.
You can, but you'll probably need some extra cash on top of that.
Makes sense. So what are some good ways to, actually make money while you're living abroad?
Well, remote work, that's a big one these days. If you've got savings, that's a good starting point. Teaching English abroad's always popular, especially in places like Spain, Czech Republic. And then there's freelancing.
Ah, the freelance life.
Actually, the Netherlands has a visa specifically for freelancers, the DEF-E visa.
Wow, a whole visa for freelancers.
Yep. So there are definitely options.
That's good to know. It's not just about finding a job in the country. It's about bringing your skills, your income with you.
Exactly. But you can't forget those little unexpected costs.
Oh, yeah, those always pop up.
Setting up your new place, currency exchange rates, those delicious pastries you mentioned. They add up.
Oh, believe me, I know all about those pastry expenses. But seriously, having that financial cushion, super important.
So important. Do your research on local banks, figure out how to transfer money internationally, and have that buffer just in case. Oh, and here's a big one people forget. Taxes.
Oh yeah, taxes. Can't escape those.
Even if you're living abroad, U.S. citizens still get taxed on their worldwide income.
Ugh. The IRS always finds a way.
It's true. That's why you really need to talk to a tax pro, someone who understands all that international tax stuff.
Definitely worth it to avoid those nasty surprises later on.
Exactly.
So it's not just about, packing a bag and hopping on a plane. There's a lot to get in order, both the logistics and the money side of things. But putting all the practical stuff aside for a minute, moving abroad is, well, it's a whole lifestyle change, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's where it gets exciting, but maybe a little challenging too.
Right, it's a big leap.
Remember Jen Barnett's quote about needing grit? It's not just about affording it, it's about pushing through those tough moments. You're diving into a whole new culture, a new way of living.
Yeah, I could see how it'd be easy to, romanticize the idea of moving abroad. But in reality, there can be frustrating moments, confusing moments, maybe even a little homesickness.
Definitely. You might hit those bureaucratic walls, those moments where you're totally lost in translation, literally A and D figuratively.
Right, it's not always going to be pretty.
And let's be honest, even the best pastries start to feel, well, just normal after a while.
True. So sounds like patience and an open mind are key here.
Essential, really. And that's where connecting with other expats can be so helpful. They've been through it, they get it.
A built-in support system.
Exactly. Look for meetups, workshops, online forums, lots of ways to connect with people going through the same thing.
Community is so important, especially when everything else is so new.
Yeah.
Speaking of new, what about language? How important is it to, actually speak the language of the country you're moving to?
It depends. It depends on your goals and the country. Some places, English is everywhere, especially in those expat bubbles. But knowing even a little bit of the local language makes a big difference day to day.
Yeah, even being able to order coffee, ask for directions, it gives you that confidence boost.
For sure. And, it shows respect for the culture you're joining. Like, you're really trying to understand their way of life.
It's like taking that extra step to connect, to go beyond just being a visitor.
Exactly. And that can be super rewarding. New friendships, new experiences, even a new way of seeing the world.
Sounds like moving abroad's a lot more nuanced than just buying that one-way ticket and figuring it out as you go.
It is. It takes planning, but it can also be an incredible adventure.
Right.
It's key to be realistic, though. Be honest with yourself. Ask yourself those tough questions. Am I actually ready for this? Why do I want to do this? And maybe most importantly, what kind of life do I picture for myself in this new place?
Big questions, but figuring those out, that's got to be the first step. You started talking about the election, that urge to escape, but I think it's become clear, moving abroad, it's about so much more than that.
It's about embracing the unknown, testing your limits, figuring out what you're really made of, and sometimes the most amazing adventures. They start by stepping outside your comfort zone.
Love that. So if you're feeling that pull, that wanderlust, don't ignore it. Dive in, do your research, check out those visas, maybe book that scouting trip.
And remember what Seppi Tabibian said, it's more possible than you think. With the right mindset, a little bit of that grit, you can totally do this.
So there you have it, all the ins and outs of moving abroad. Visas, money, lifestyle, that all-important grit, we covered it all. But before we wrap up, we want to leave you with a question.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? And, maybe even more interesting, why there?
Such a good question to think about. It's like choosing your own adventure for your life. And sometimes just asking yourself that question, that's the first step to making it happen.
The world is huge. It's full of amazing places. There's so much out there waiting to be discovered. So keep dreaming, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.
As you're listening to this, maybe on your commute or at the gym or even, already picturing yourself in some far-off place, what's sticking with you? What's got you thinking, maybe I could actually do this?
Is it those digital nomad visas? Working from a beach in Bali? Or maybe it's the whole idea of a new culture, exploring ancient ruins, learning a new language.
What really struck me in this deep dive is moving abroad isn't just about running away from something. It's about, running towards something new, something exciting, something that could change your whole outlook.
It's about pushing your boundaries, finding out what you're truly capable of.
Exactly. So if you're feeling that pull, that little voice saying, go explore, don't ignore it. Do your research. Check out those visa options. Maybe even book that scouting trip.
You never know. Maybe the next time we do one of these deep dives, you'll be calling in from that cafe in Lisbon
Yeah.
or that peaceful village in Bali.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well,
But until then, keep dreaming, keep exploring, keep diving deep. And hey, thanks for joining us on this adventure.
it's been a pleasure. Safe travels, everyone.